just trying to compare it to
Right,
what I
thank you.
know about.
Yeah.
Is this the first and only public hearing, or do you guys present this as the process continues? I'm just kind of used to like the school system, how they present the budget several times.
Well, we presented it last month also.
Okay,
And then they moved it to preliminary, which is what you have there.
okay,
And now we hold one public hearing.
Yep.
And then they need to adopt it by November 20th by law. They have
okay,
to
so this
adopt
is
it
kind of
by
the last showing.
This is
Yeah,
the
I
last
was
showing.
curious.
Yep.
It's
Sorry.
different than the school budget. because that's voted
Very
on by
different.
the taxpayers.
Was there? a
Yeah, I was
packet
just
like that
wondering,
last
like,
month?
as
I
far
was
as
here, I
that,
don't remember getting a packet like this with all the budget numbers.
Well, it was available after the last meeting to come in and get from Diane.
Oh, it was
That's
a packet.
the website.
And
Oh,
it's on the website also. Yeah.
okay. No, you can't use-
Yeah, I have a question.
Just on a line item thing.
Sure.
The assessors, the third number 4, so from 5 to 14,000.
Yeah, they're gonna do a reval in 2023, so they're gonna, Stephanie, you wanna explain that?
Okay, what would you, yeah, I'd be happy to. What can I
The
help?
reval.
The third number 4 of your contractual, it's gone from 5,000 to 14,000.
Because that's Bob's portion of the budget, and he's a contractor. I'm an employee, he's a contractor, so he'll be spending more time during a reval year because every parcel needs to be independently reviewed, all 3,200 pieces, including vacant land, state land, DEP land, all of that. It all goes into the pot.
Just to back up, Stephanie, maybe you could explain that we did the full reval, what, 5 years ago?
Well, the first one was done in 2015, so that was our first ever in over 30 years. And so what that means, so the purpose, by the way, so we'll back up a little bit again, the purpose again of a townwide revaluation is to create parity, to create equity in the rolls, so that people are paying only their fair share, not more and not less. And so that's the purpose of a reval. In order to keep a roll fair and equitable over time, you have to redo it. There's a schedule that the state suggests, which is a 4 to 5 year update. So we did our update in 2019, again, to maintain 100% of value. We had to do a little bit of tweaking in 2020 for certain building styles to stay at 100% of value because of this real estate market. And since that time, the real estate market, as we all know, has been a seller's market. And so our 100% dropped to 90 and we're now at 81. So when you slip a little bit like that, it means that really what that means at the end of the day is that these parcels, these properties that have sold in the past 2 to 3 years for for a multiple of what they're assessed for are currently not paying their fair share. And so where does that get made up? It gets spread out across the body, if you will. Okay, so that's the purpose of a reval, again, to create equity and parity and fairness. And so that's the purpose of a 4 to 5 year cycle. It's also the purpose of us, driving around like madmen, updating our photo file. So, and we drive around all the time anyway, but when you do a townwide revaluation, and because we do want that coveted certificate of excellence that we've gotten twice before for 2015 and 2019, we expect to get it again. So not only, because we're doing it under the guidance and under the watchful eye of our ORPS team, Office of Real Property Tax Services in Albany. And so we're doing it their way. It's completely transparent. We then qualify for a certificate of excellence in equity excellence. And we also qualify for reimbursement, which we've gotten twice before. So part of this money that a town spends is actually, and how much we actually eventually get back. And Beth got a check last year. She was 70. And I go, wait a minute, that's our excellence and equity money that we got. We got several installments of a few $1,000s a pop. And the amount that a town receives is actually dependent upon how many towns in that year are doing an update. And so it's up to 5 cents per parcel divided among all the towns across New York State that are doing an update. So that's how that works. Welcome. Glad to have anything else. Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions concerning the budget? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing and move on to our regular meeting. Hearing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:07. Where we stand for pledge of allegiance?
It's to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start our meeting with the minutes from our October 10th regular meeting. Everybody had a chance to review the minutes? Any suggestions or changes? Not, I'll ask for a resolution to accept the minutes. And second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, we had a request to speak from Mike Harrington, but he has submitted a written report instead, so I'm going to move on, receive his report. Does anybody have any questions or comments concerning that? All right, I'm going to move on with starting tonight with the grant portion of the project, PEG. And you can go over that.
Hi, gang.
You have a couple of things to go on, so.
Just so you know, we should be hearing about the DRI and the Restore program sometime in December, I hope. And we have kicked back into motion the Roxbury Main Street program, which will be working on very diligently. The second round of Restore has landed and is due on January 28th. This is now the opportunity for the Reed's property to be looked at for restore application. So the letter of intent would need to be filed by the 30th of this month. And Jonathan, I know, has drafted the letter of intent and couldn't be here tonight because he's running his business, which is where he should be, darn it. So I would like to help Jonathan in this process to get through the letter of intent. Of course, it's got to be signed by the municipality and the site affidavit of site control and the property list. And then we'll go through the process as we did last for round 6 with the public hearings and the publication of the property and things like that. So
If you recall, he had wanted to apply. with
you
the
guys
letter of intent.
actually approved submitting 2
Yes.
letters of intent last time, but he had to withdraw
Yes,
because he didn't have ownership of the property yet
and he now has ownership of the property and would like.
and
to
would like to
So,
move forward. And that building is exactly what this program was designed to do. So I think it's a really good fit.
does anybody have any issues with that? Not, I'd like a resolution, I guess, to allow him to move forward, allow you.
Just a motion to submit the letter of intent.
Just to submit the letter. of
That's all you need.
intent.
Resolution to come next month.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, with that being said, we also have this DRI grant, which went in.
Mhm.
Um,
September 27th.
Yes,
So if you recall, back in August, we met with the town board and a steering committee was formed. There was a decision to apply for both Grand Gorge and Roxbury as a dual application to dual communities. And so we put together the steering committee comprised of people from both communities. All volunteers worked really hard, but I know and mentioned at that August meeting that the need to submit a clean, well-designed application to launch a website and then we may be, if we make the cut, we may be asked to present, and I asked for a budget for the committee to use to accomplish that through professional services. So that was, you all approved up to $10,000 of the American Recovery Act. All in all, we spent $6,000. We were really diligent about how that went. And one One was for the graphic designer David Rainbird because he was in contract with the town already. We did not have time to put out a formal RFP. We had a 20-day turnaround with a 10-day turnaround for a presentation. So there was a ton of work going into this. And the other was for Just at the Own, which also did contractual services for you during COVID on the Zoom thing. So I would ask that they get paid because they worked hard and the committee did what they really believed was the best way to move
I
forward.
think that the main thing we need to do, the resolution we did previously, I think it just mentioned Dave Rainbird and seeing how Jess,
It's a graphic designer,
yes, but Jess also submitted a separate invoice.
right? So
If we.
she's a
need to-
designer also,
Right, and she did the videography side. of it.
Right.
I'm aware of that.
but she and David work hand in hand.
Right.
It's just two separate companies.
So our resolution that was done previously only mentioned,
It didn't mention any names. It mentioned a graphic designer.
I thought it mentioned names.
No, it did not.
So I guess just to clarify that, I want to make sure that we're clear that this was also part of that project. And this invoice from.
David not only designed the application, he launched the website in 2 days for public input and to keep everyone up to date on where the committee was moving with this application. And Jessica spent countless hours walking, I hate to say walking the streets, but countless hours doing video, and then we were still editing up until 10 o'clock the night before we had to present. So, they really stepped to the plate and they were the right people for the job without a doubt. And as I said, David didn't charge any more than his contract to do the website for his hourly fee, and Jessica didn't charge any more for her hourly fee. It was the hours that they worked.
So I guess just for the minutes, I don't know that we need another resolution, but just for the minutes to clarify that her invoice is part of that process.
Yes.
in that $10,000.
So how do you want to pay Jess then? That was the question for the resolution. Do you want to use ARPA funds or
Yes,
not?
that was what we agreed
So
to.
that's what the resolution is for.
So we should, I guess, do another resolution. Yes,
Does it need to be a resolution, Diane, or a motion?
Be either.
Yeah.
Just need to be clarified because we get audited for the.
Right, no, I get it. So just make a motion to pay Jess out of the AR
Okay.
for the purpose of the DRI.
I make that motion.
Second, all in favor? Okay. Anything else on the grants, community resources side? Peg, you discuss with us while
just-
you're here?
Just as we said, we're not going into contract next year. It's a fee for service. So you budgeted a certain amount and you will be provided with the menu in December. And I'll give you a heads up as things land. The big heavy part of what will be coming out will be in the early spring months. And then, of course, in May, the consolidated funding application comes out. So there's a lot of opportunities coming forth. There's also some other unusual things that pop up here and there, and you guys will be the first to know when they do. And also, if you see anything on your end, Diane's really good about forwarding me all the things that come across her desk, which also come across my desk too. So there's that kind of communication going on.
Okay. Anybody have anything else for Peg?
Do we have an idea when Dave will be done with the town's website?
He plans to present in December.
So we had a thing last month.
Yeah. And just FYI, I will not be at the December meeting. I'll be out in Colorado visiting my sister-in-law. So everyone try and hold down the fort, okay?
Do our best. Peg.
Okay.
Denise, did you have anything else you wanted to go over when we're on parks?
No, you guys got
We
all
got your
those?
report.
Mhm.
You sent a report over, so. I see you're here, so I don't see if you wanted to say anything. You all good?
Good.
Okay. Moving on, I guess we'll go with highway. Bill, you're here, you guys gotta get up early, so.
Not a whole lot. November 1st, we started our hours of 6 to 2:30.
around December 1st, we'll be starting our other hours, winter hours from 5 to 1:30. That'll last till about mid-March. Spoke with Mike Harrington. He asked about the Lake Street Roosevelt Avenue project that Hubble's completed. He emailed me, made sure I was okay with it. Everything looks good on our, as far as the streets, you know, the town roads. So. Johnson Road project. On October 14th, I had a recovery transition meeting with Jonathan Lawrence and gentleman Samuel from FEMA to finally sign off on that project. So that was put into review in Albany and hopefully sent to FEMA for a reimbursement request. Oh, we rented a skid steer for Monday to take care of those poles for all the radar signs. Hopefully we'll be getting that and get them finished up in a couple days. I was gonna talk to Little Jim today. I didn't get a chance to about concrete, but I'll get a hold of him next week.
I had a question for one up here by the White Bridge.
Yes,
And you and I talked before, I was gonna catch you before the meeting, but I didn't get a chance. There's the two signs in Stamford and the ones in Davenport are both before the speed limit sign. I'd like to rethink that one and put it back by the White Bridge instead of putting it in front of somebody's house.
right. I'll get a hold of Scott
I think we should talk to Scott about that one before we.
because I actually I reached out to him about a month ago and I never got a return phone call on the one.
If you need me to call and let me know.
Yeah.
I'll get in touch with you.
Yeah, if you wanna do that.
Before we do that one, I really would like to try to move that back because I don't want it in
Right.
front of somebody's house.
That's why I did the second area.
Yeah,
It wasn't quite in front of somebody's house.
Right.
and Farther away from the.
we can talk more about it afterwards. I want to pull up the meeting.
Right.
I
Okay,
just wanted to give you a heads up.
so yeah, so hopefully I got all the reports on all the locations from you, Dave. All the clearances.
Okay,
The new truck arrived on October 20th. I got that insured and registered. So I see there's a resolution. Is that something you wanted to, if anybody had any questions on that or transferring monies from the Highway Equipment Reserve Fund?
no, I went over that with you a little bit earlier today, Beth.
I just wanted to bring it up if there was any questions anybody had. Well,
We're basically, just to explain it, we're gonna transfer some money out of the highway reserve fund until we get our CHIPS money, correct?
Well, the highway reserve fund is gonna pay for half of the
That's
truck,
right, that was planned to pay. for
and then the other half is in the budget, current budget.
Correct, okay.
So we're gonna use those two.
Yeah.
And then the other part of that is to borrow some money from the general fund until we get CHIPS money back on the 15th
Correct.
of December. So for
Right.
1 month,
Cover
we just gotta
everything.
borrow some money to pay the bills and do payroll for the month. And that's what that one is for on the back page.
Do we have anything for Bill? Or you got
There's a
anything
couple
else?
more things out.
Okay,
quick.
sorry.
No, I got an email from Tim Plant, who was from Henderson Equipment, about that, the file equipment and the dump box and all that. He said that, you know, he wanted something in writing saying that we weren't held. He emailed me just saying, you know, understands that the voucher was placed based upon chassis availability, so if we don't get the truck, obviously we will be held to pay for the equipment. And then just, we talked about it, Al, I'd like to bring a, request a resolution to make a motion on selling that generator, the old generator,
The
that,
small one.
yeah. To just put it on Auctions International. I'll just take some pictures of it, send it in and
Okay,
get it on there to sell.
okay, I did ask Mike about it, and it's what, 7-10 years old now already?
Well, I think it was 16, I think.
Yeah.
I looked up when the new one was installed.
Yeah, and it was in there for quite a few years before that. So I don't know how much value it's got, but I guess that's probably the easiest, safest way to do it.
I think it's the only way, right?
So I guess we need a resolution,
Just make a motion on,
make a motion
for
on
me to put that
selling
on.
the generator. Somebody else make a motion?
Unless anybody has any other ideas for it.
this was a good year. But we've been selling most everything else on
16 years old, I think.
I'll second it.
favor. Aye.
That's all I got, but, Mr. Shriver here would like to mention something.
Okay, I just want to let everybody know that we got the 4 AEDs installed. Clinton and I went around a couple of weeks ago. So we have one here in the town hall, there's one at the transfer station, in their little office. There's one in the highway garage in the foyer. And then there's one in the civic center, next to the senior meals. They were all installed according to ADA specs because there's certain height restrictions or height requirements, I guess, for people in wheelchairs and whatnot. So we did measure that and put up all the signs. They're good at least until 2025 in terms of the pads. And I'm gonna go around probably every other month and just put my initials on the little card that's inside each one. They are alarmed. I don't know if anybody's tried to open it yet, but it's quite annoying. So, so that's a project that's done. The other thing that I wanted to kind of request, I got looking into radios for the town highway. I know the school recently switched their radio situation for all the school buses, and they're going to a digital system because they were having some issues with some things, and we're not going to be able to speak with them anymore. I know me personally, I'm Ferris, so I talk to her all the time to have her wait for me at the bottom of the hill if there's school and it's slippery. She can follow me up to Murray Road. I know that we can use the ARPA money to update infrastructure for municipalities. And I did look into this a little bit, and there were several towns or several municipalities, a couple in New York State, but several in the country that use that ARPA money to update radio systems. And digital is coming. I know for Delaware County EMS and law, the radios that we have now are digital capable, and they did it that way because in 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, this whole wave of communication is going to be here. And I don't think analog is long for the world. So I wanted to be able to go and at least get a quote from a digital communications company. There's Tri-County in Oneonta, which is what the school used. But I just wanted to know anybody's thoughts, or
Did they go with different frequencies and what they?
I believe you can use the same frequencies. I think it's just how it's transmitted.
It changed. I need to know more about what they're doing.
I don't know. I don't know if the frequencies change or not. I do know that just like we probably pay tower rent for a repeater on the Mountain, it's the same thing with just a different company. I don't know what the difference is.
The digital isn't going to take away the need for a tower.
No, it's not. And that's what I'm saying. They still have a tower rent. It's just through a different organization than KJBL, because he does not offer digital service. And I do know after speaking with Richard Davis that they drove every single road in the school district, and there was not one issue with crystal clear cell phone communication, basically, is what it turned out to be in the entire school district. And I know me for one, on the other side of Ferris Hill and Johnson Hollow, I can't, Ralph doesn't want to talk to me anyways when I'm not there, but I can't get a hold of anybody when I'm on that side of the mountain. It's just hard. And thankfully the cell phones work out there, but it's just something that I think that would be a good use of that money, as opposed to trying to foot this from a taxpayer standpoint.
I guess probably first thing we need is to see a proposal or a quote or something.
Okay. So kind of the same thing as the AEDs, just
get an idea of what the cost would be.
I mean, I do know, what did we figure for radios? It was 31.
There's 31.
31 total.
Plus 2 handheld.
Plus 2 handhelds. So they're probably about $1,000 a piece installed.
Yeah.
So you're probably from.
So you'd be
everything's
looking
all
at
said and done, you're
replacing all the
probably.
radios instead of upgrading. They can't be upgraded.
No, they're not digital capable. That's the problem. They're totally analog, and you know, I've read a lot about it over the past couple of days since I've looked into this a little bit, and I just, I think that this is, I think we're in a good time to do it, because you have this money that's not gonna be paid for directly through taxes. You know, and in terms of updating, you know, something significant for the town, I think it would be a good use of that money.
I guess why don't you give us a quote and see where we go from there.
Okay.
Does the Wi-Fi have anything to do with it? Like the school buses all have Wi-Fi as well.
No, it's just, from what I understand, it's how the information is transmitted. Instead of it transmitting in like huge chunks, digital, I guess, is bits and pieces. I don't know, it's just clearer and it's got more of a distance, and it's just, I would assume the way things are the direction that this is going, not just for us, obviously, but for anybody that uses two-way communication, which again is why the county, I think, went the direction that they went and had everything digital capable, so that when they do get to that, it's an easy upgrade. So, but I will look into that and I will get a proposal to you. Okay. Thank you.
I do have a question for you about the ARPA money for the Roxbury Fire Department. Have you guys talked about that, our proposal? We've not seen anything from them, right?
I believe that was getting brought up again on
Yeah,
Monday.
we haven't seen anything from them at all yet.
Yeah, I know that it was brought up. I do remember it getting brought up, but I don't remember what the end result was. I'll look into it on Monday.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else for highway? Hey, Stephanie, why don't you give us your report?
Oh,
I'm
okay,
sure
sure.
you sent us a report, but do you have
Yeah,
anything
I
else to
did. I
say?
gave you a pretty short one, short and sweet. So I gave you guys an update. Let's see, we at this point have visited over 1,200 properties and taken over 1,300 photos. A lot of clicking. And so it's a process. So yeah, so when we visit a property, obviously we have the record card with us. And we're reviewing, our diagram on the back, we diagram every house, I shouldn't say the structure, but when we diagram the houses. And then we compare that to what we have. So for the most part, a lot of things haven't changed, but you'll notice that I'm still reporting that, and I stopped giving you pictures because I'm cheap with taxpayer money, so I'm not giving you pictures anymore. But guys, people are building without permits. And you're just putting it out there. It's all about fairness and
It's happening all over. It's not just us. but
I
you're right.
know,
It's,
I know, yeah, I know. So, but it puts us in an awkward position because then it's kind of like, I become, Bob and I are like, playing gotcha. That's not what it's about. You know what I mean? So anyway, so just throwing it out there. And then, of course, Diane has given you the paperwork for the senior resolution to increase the income table for seniors by 20%, which currently, again, just as a reminder, it currently maxes out at gross income, which counts everything for that exemption, at 23.4. And under the new proposal, it would max out at, and forgive me because I have the peak right now, it would max out at 28.2. So again, that's all in, Social Security, pension, any source of income, you have a garage sale and you report it. So it's all sources of income. And so again, as a reminder, from the informal mailing that we did, we potentially can pick up about 13 individuals. We currently have 22. So 22 seniors right now got this exemption. And because of these increases in Social Security, these seniors they're gonna get knocked down a couple of levels, and it's gonna, for that extra $100 or $200 that they get Social Security, it's gonna put them in another bracket, and their school and their town bills are gonna really skyrocket. So we feel that it's a really important and valuable service that the board can do for our seniors.
And you have a draft law and a draft local law that we've received. We would have to do a hearing next month. And then go from there.
Right, so if you pass that
That's a
tonight,
resolution to set a hearing
Right.
next month.
and then we have a public hearing, exactly. And then, of course, once you do that, the next step would be to send it to the school board and ask them to follow suit. So that, and the school has been really, really awesome about doing, because we did that in 2014, and the school adopted our income table, which then we shared with Middletown, and then they adopted it, and then the school in Martinville adopted it as well.
Anybody like to make a resolution on that? We have it on our list of resolutions to set a public hearing for that proposed law. For next month's meeting on the 12th.
You have to do a time, right?
And we have to set a time, yes. We have a probably have a couple of issues for it. I guess 6:45 would do it.
Well,
Yep. I have a resolution for that.
I'll make that.
A second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. So 6:45 on December 12th, we'll have that local law for a public hearing. Okay, anybody have anything else for Stephanie? As you spoke earlier, you're in the process of going through this reevaluation steps. It's ongoing. Yes, Judith.
Stephanie, how long do you anticipate the continuation of the, the photos and Bob?
As long as it takes, Judith.
Like, okay, so it could be like a month, it could be 3
Oh, it's gonna be
months.
way more than a month. Yeah, yeah. And a lot of our activity too is, it's weather dependent. We go out when the sun is shining. Bob has been out on Saturdays and Sundays. I'm here on Sunday flipping pictures and uploading them to RPS. So a lot of our outdoor work with respect to this type of project is extremely weather dependent. We go out in snow. We don't like to. It's hard to, I have to shovel the deck before I measure it, but we've done that too. So, and at this time of year also, when the leaves are down and if a property is gated or the house is remote or something like that, it's still, we get a great view of the house from where we're standing. So, yeah, it's a process, all properties.
Anybody have anything for Stephanie? Okay, we received in our packets too a proposed new local law for the building code changes that are required. There's some changes to the state building code that have been made, and we need to incorporate them in our local law. We would need to again schedule that public hearing for also the next meeting if we can do it. He also gave us his report for the last 2 months.
30.
Well, I think we can start the first one at 6:45. We can probably schedule it
Right after.
right after following. Just immediately following. And then again, like we did tonight, the town board meeting to follow.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, water and sewer. I don't see Chris on the thing, but he did submit his weekly reports to us, or monthly reports for water districts and sewer districts. Anybody has any questions? Chris or Kobe are on Zoom or here, so. We have any questions on any of that? Okay, buildings and grounds. Ed, do you have anything with Civic Center Home Depot? I would want to go back to Bill. I would want to thank you for the minutes for all your help with doing this AED stuff. That's kind of above and beyond the Call of Duty here for highway. Thank you very much for getting it done. Appreciate it.
I just, if I
Sure.
could, I had one question for Ed. During the civic center there. I don't know if you noticed, but in the dining room, in that whole area, all those windows are all cracked and some are missing chunks and a lot of the glazing is just falling out, so. I thought we was looking into using some of the other. A couple of windows are missing chunks, but most of them are cracked. And the glazing's gone and all of them.
Have to get a hold. Get some line up to take a look at this. Hold on. Yeah, sure. Affects the detail.
Yeah. The ones in the front.
Yeah, I know we talked about that. Let's see if we can line up some. Skills. Oh, I know we can do it.
See them every day. Yeah, I didn't want to, I went down there, I was gonna. About every brand or something.
Check with her and ask about it if you want.
You'll probably be able to-
Okay, the only other thing on building and grounds, Bill, while you're here, I don't know, did you talk with Jim Boughton about what we're talking about for a landing zone? For helicopter up there by the new.
He called me a couple weeks ago when we were away, and that's the first I had heard about it. And then the following week, he mentioned that he was meeting with the helicopter people,
Yeah,
and I said, get a hold of me and I'll gladly meet with them, but I never heard any more about it. What, I mean, what
Well-
is the game plan?
what we're looking at, chime in here if he wants to, but basically in the wintertime, and especially when the school is in session, we've used the athletic field quite a lot for helicopter landing, but when school's in session and when there's snow on the field, it's kind of hard to use that.
Right.
So we've been looking for a location here in town where we can land a helicopter for emergency medical. And we've got that space behind the well building, the new well building. In the winter, for now, it's grassed over and we've been mowing it, but in the winter time, we would have to get it plowed. I don't know, do you guys plow the well buildings?
Yes, we do.
So it would just be a matter of adding whatever space that is to keep it plowed off. And then,
Yeah, somebody would want to meet with me.
yeah, we can, I'll have them meet with you and show you what you're doing up there.
Yeah.
We also were talking, which I know, Mac, you were involved in the meeting with UBP. At Plattekill, they've got a space up there that they would like to try to use as well, that's closer to Plattekill. Where again, it would just be a matter of keeping it plowed. Whoever's doing that route, basically just about 100 by 100 space. It's not
Right.
huge, but be just getting an
Where's
access.
that at?
Upper Meeker Hall,
We looked
Is
at
that by Lower Meeker Hall?
halfway up, halfway up.
Oh, I thought it was up by the slope.
No, it's down, down just a little bit past.
well, it's the old Cubans farm.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
but that's gonna be way in the future. for
Right.
us.
Yeah, there's more to that. That's not gonna happen right away.
Is that's where they tore the house down not too long ago, right?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
looking at across the field, but
across from the old Cubis.
yeah,
I've been working with the DEP. What would have to happen if that comes about is we would have to do some kind of release through the town. And the location would have to be designated and then put into a lease with the DEP.
Right.
And it would have to be done through the town. But just keep it on your radar. I don't think it's gonna happen this year, by the sounds of what they're telling me, so.
So what's the purpose of putting one up there?
It's just in the event we have a problem at Plattekill and we need a helicopter. In the past, they've always had to try to find a location to land up there. In the summer, it's not quite so bad because we've got some fields we can use, but in the winter again, there's no good locations.
our main concern right now.
Ski
is-
Patrol came to me about it.
Our main concern right now is the one in town. We don't have anything in the winter. really
No,
don't.
I know that.
Yeah. That's the bigger concern, is trying to get this one here. And that location works well. It's good. for that. You guys plow in there anyways. But
Well, yeah, like I said, just if somebody could show me or we could cone it off or something, so we know a good idea where.
Would Plattekill be donating anything to the cops too, since it services them?
well, that's what we'll have to look into and see where.
Absolutely not. We're broke.
There's a lot more to be determined there as far as what the city's going to require for leasing property if we do use city land. So we'll have to look into that and see where it goes. But
Could it be on Plattekill itself?
problem is there's not a lot of flat land up there. And then the day when they're busy, when something like that would happen, the parking lots are all full. So
But they have a lot of land. I'm sure they could create a flat space.
I don't know if you can create something big enough or
Not
not.
a lot of flat land up there.
That's the problem. That's the
Well,
problem.
they created a parking lot, didn't they?
That's the problem. If they made it flat, they'd park cars in it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's, again, to be determined. I don't know if it's gonna work out or not. We'll see. So, we're gonna try.
That's kind of a far-fetched idea. to
We're
start with.
gonna kind of see where it goes. Okay, moving on. Planning board, I don't think we had anything that I know of. I don't think we had anything from our health officer either. We did receive a couple of letters. Assume everybody's looked them over. We've talked about them a little bit. Robin, I will say, since you're here with your sidewalk letter that you sent to us, we did look a little bit into that, or I did. The ordinance that you suggested from the city of Syracuse, I did read that article. As you can imagine, Syracuse is a much bigger city than Roxbury, and what they've done is they've basically taken responsibility for, but it is also a city where they have sidewalks everywhere. And they've taken responsibility for all of the sidewalks in the city to the tune of several millions of dollars to maintain and upgrade and do all that, which I'm not so sure is feasible for a town the size of Roxbury.
Well, we don't have nearly the same amount of sidewalks, so that was just, used as an example.
I think from what I've looked at, and again, more research needs to be done. Again, I don't even know for sure. And our attorney isn't on tonight. She wasn't available. But I think more of the only other option would be, which I have heard of cities doing, is a local law or an ordinance that requires the individual homeowners to maintain their sidewalk after a significant snow event within a certain amount of time. There's a couple of cities that do that say if you don't do it within, say, 48 hours, then the town is obliged to go do it for you or hire somebody to do it for you and charge you for it.
What about those that are not occupied in the wintertime?
That's a problem. That's right.
Well, this is something, well, some of them have
They either have
people
to,
that oversee their properties, like maintaining the grass and so on.
in the event you were to do that, property owners that were not there in the winter would have to contract with somebody to maintain their sidewalk for them. Because even though
Yeah.
sidewalks are on private property, they're public space. So that would be the other option. Individual landowners, as we've talked about many times about a sidewalk district, and the town footing the bill to do it. The money to do that work would only be borne by the people that are in that district. That's by state law. We can't change that. Even though there may be other people from the town that go there and walk and use them, the cost to maintain the sidewalks has to be with the people that are in that district. And just like a lighting district, you saw the budget for the lighting district. Only the people that live where there's a street light pay for that district. And that's the same way with the sidewalks.
And what about senior citizens that are not able to take care of their sidewalks? And
Again,
I'm not one of those because I'm able to do mine, but I have.
I know
sidewalks.
exactly what you're saying, and that's one of the issues with this kind of an ordinance is that those people would still be required to do it, but they would have to probably hire somebody to maintain their sidewalk for them.
Well, I know of one resident in town, right in town, who somehow I don't even know who does it, but takes care of her driveway and when it got in front of her property.
Many people do.
Yeah.
That's done a lot. There's many guys around that do maintain sidewalks.
Then there's somebody somewhere up, going up towards, the dollar store on the right-hand side that has a, what do you call it, snow blower, and he does several people. I don't know who that is. I can only observe what I see.
There's quite a few contractors around.
Yeah.
I have another question about sidewalks, since you're on it. With the grass and sod growing over the sidewalk. A lot of the sidewalks going up, 23 up the hill are actually in good shape. If you take the dirt and grass off.
Yeah.
Now, is there any, since sidewalks are on private property, but they're public ways, like public right of way, is there any rule against a group of people just going around and cleaning off the grass, cutting it back to the edge of the sidewalk?
That I'm not sure of. I know that if the municipality is going to do, we've looked into this before, if we're going to do any kind of maintenance on the private property, we would have to do it as a district. We would have to designate, just like I mentioned before, we would have to designate a sidewalk district. And everybody would have to pay into having that work done.
That's why I was asking if there's like a citizens group that would.
If there's volunteers that want to go do that work, that would be wonderful. That's something we would.
Nobody wants to volunteer at all.
So
Don't trust me.
that's another story.
Sidewalks now.
Or maybe for that. So I'm in a place where nobody comes up with me to volunteer.
Okay, moving on. Discussion from residents. Anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up to us? Sure. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am. Renee. I'm sorry.
I'd like to address a concern and maybe offer a resolution to my concern. With the board's decision to disband STR committee and not adopting regulations. The renters of STRs expect the homes to be safe. If there's an injury, they will sue the homeowner, but they could also now especially sue Roxbury for negligence since Roxbury's board rejected, they're not working on any more regulations. When there's so many other towns that have regulations. And Roxbury, I believe, if I'm not incorrect, is self-insured, which means we, the taxpayers, would be responsible for the cost of any lawsuits. And we're all familiar with a lot of the other issues, obviously, the cost and availability of housing, safety, traffic, noise, the cost of services for STRs and oversight. And just about everyone that I've ever spoken with in Roxbury, they would like regulations. And they also talk about taking funds from people with STRs to pay for anything that needs to be done. And even people who work for STRs have privately told me, they wouldn't come to a public meeting, but they privately tell me that they would like regulations. And my husband even spoke with an STR manager that said she thought regulations would be good for the STR owners that aren't as good as the other ones. And I contacted the town clerk to find out what the main problem was. And she said that one of the main things was that the board didn't know how to enforce the regulations. And so she told me to get the whole scoop, but to contact Diane, but obviously Diane wasn't able to call me back.
No,
Deanna, I'm sorry. Okay. And the committee worked so long and hard, and they got stuck on the enforcement piece. So I spoke with Shandaken Town Clerk, and she's also the tax collector. And she offered to help Roxbury they seem to have a lot of success with their regulations. They seem very fair. They're dependent on where you reside, the number of homes you own, the number of bedrooms. And they said they found a lot of problems with safety in the STRs. So my recommendation is, I'm asking to reconsider about making regulations, and Shandaken would be glad to help. Or if there are other reasons you don't want to do it, perhaps a vote or a referendum. Thank you. Renee.
You want to speak to that, Deanna, or Mike, or you guys were both kind of heading up the committee on this?
Still comes down to that one issue. Enforcement. Right. Shandy, I'm gonna go up here and enforce it for us.
Okay, somebody.
No.
Robin?
I understood that you guys decided to not to go through with this because the committee that was working on it suggested that there was no need for it.
And you have a
It is-
good neighbor policy.
And you have a good neighbor
But
policy,
you're
but
implementing the
is,
neighbor policy.
was that not the case, Dee? That's what I thought. That's what I heard at the last meeting.
That's not been done either.
No, I'm working on that, but, I mean, we determined there was not a lot of, complaints. We did look at the Shandaken one, cause I, kind of mirrored what we had with the Shandaken one, and, the committee brought up some good points on that. Esther, remember Esther had a whole.
Yeah.
Well, because they reviewed it, and there was some certain things about it being really stringent, and I can't even remember what she had talked about in that. But, it comes down to enforcement. We don't have anybody to enforce it. Talked about inspections, do we make sure we send somebody in to do inspections, or how we're gonna handle that, but we determined that at this point, we really didn't see the need for it.
With the county regulations, is the way they are. It's just another set of rules copying what the county's doing.
Well, county's not really doing any rules concerning safety.
Oh, yeah, they do.
You know, I didn't look at the most recent changes. I know they made some.
They made changes and it's being. You're just making more rules. And our problem is, back to the bottom line, is the enforcement. We gotta hire somebody to go around and check these places and enforce it. We just don't have that person.
I mean, in the good neighbor policy, it's all about suggestions about being a good neighbor, but we don't have any enforcement on it, essentially.
Did you get any complaints from people who actually were in, to the STR? This is people that go to lease their homes for a certain time frame. Is that what this is? Okay.
Yeah.
I have a daughter that leased property in July. That she gave me didn't give me a whole list, but I can get a whole list from her of the violations in the house. Lower Mika Hollow Road is where this was. And I mean, as soon as I walked in the door, I noticed that, you're supposed to have the alarms that go off when, you're cooking and all. There was wires hanging down. That was it. Walked in, there was dust and dirt. It wasn't clean. She had windows that didn't open. I don't even know what else offhand now because it's, but there was I don't know, 6 or 8 of them that are all in the house of my children. And it wasn't very good at all.
I think a lot of the enforcement of things like safety stuff too, didn't we determine that the homeowners insurance companies, when they're using these things for short-term rental, they're required by their insurance company to make sure that a lot of this stuff is taken care of.
Yeah, that goes through the whole form of registering through the county.
Right, and also
So they're signing off. They sign off to the county and their insurance companies for this stuff. So, as I said, that's just, we can make regulations onto it. You have to have somebody to go out there and do it. We can hire somebody for another 30,000, so, you know.
And if a place is dirty, how would that be the town's responsibility? That is
It's not
something
going
you
to be
would
dirty.
take up with the homeowner.
I
And-
also think is if it's
It-
not bad a shape, at some point you can't rent it out anymore.
Right, people will stop renting it. People, I hope your daughter wrote a review, and that's how people then stop.
I'm not
renting.
sure exactly where it went after that.
I think most,
And-
from my understanding, most of the short-term rentals are rented through one of the several companies that are out there where they have their own standards and their own requirements, and before they'll accept you as a property that they would rent, they require certain standards and they require certain insurances. I know Airbnb for one, because a friend of mine has one, they require copies of your insurance and they do inspections and all this other stuff before they'll even accept you as a property.
Right, and they
And I think-
also provide additional insurance, so
Yes.
someone is not gonna sue the town when they rent, if they get hurt, maybe they will if they fall on a snowy sidewalk, but
think-
they're not gonna sue the town when they've rented an Airbnb. There's no way the town would be liable.
I think a
Somebody
lot,
falls at your house, they don't sue the town.
I think a lot of the regulations that I've looked at in the town, correct me if I'm wrong, were geared towards the number of Airbnb or short-term rentals and the
Some sort of cap on it, yeah.
many of them put caps on how many could be in the town, where if you had a certain number already there, well, they would not allow new ones until other ones left or stopped doing it, those kind of things, which I don't think we've really looked at at all in Roxbury.
Well, a lot of the towns have gone through all this. Jewett, I read the papers too. Jewett went through it, the whole week, whatever it is, that they have to go. And I know it's safety, and one of the things is, I look at the fire department because they don't have fire extinguishers in the places, I don't think. So there again, I don't know if it would be something that the fire department could, or does, or whatever, to inspect as they do, businesses in town. I know that, because I worked in the, what do you call it, the Queens Mountain Cafe. And they used to come in and check the fire extinguishers, the companies. So, it's not a case of me not knowing,
In many
much-
cases, that's driven by your fire insurance company as well.
Well, okay,
If you're buying fire insurance and the company knows that you're doing a rental on the property, they're going to look at that. That's what
Okay,
their
well,
job is as an insurance company.
how many let it be known to their insurance?
Again, that's kind of hard to regulate from a municipal standpoint. Okay,
What, just one more question. As a town board, do you think it's important to have the public, in other words, that, no, you made the decision, but how does the public feel? I think that's important because it affects so many people's lives and their houses and their prices and just so many things that it affects, that it isn't like somebody else's problem, it's all our problem.
This is the first it's come up since we disbanded the committee, honestly, that I've heard of.
Because very few people knew about it. It wasn't in the paper.
well, I don't think as a municipality, we get very
It wasn't
many
the paper.
specific complaints against individual Airbnbs as far as safety issues within the building. The only complaints that I've heard about are things like noise with the neighbors and things like that, but not necessarily on the building themselves. We go by the New York State Building Code and we enforce that in new construction and changes to the properties, but it's not really our place to, at this point, we have nothing in place where we need to go in everybody's, we don't go on people's individual homes and say, gee, do you have enough fire extinguishers, or gee, do you have the right access for people to get out? That's not something that a municipality, or at least our municipality, has done.
Well, I think one thing that she's speaking to is worth thinking about. What's our long-term vision for our town? Because it's an interesting thing. We might not be able to regulate the fire extinguishers and all those nitty gritties. But, you know, do we want higher level regulations on how many of these short-term rentals we want to allow in our town? What percentage of our town? Do we want to allow for houses to be sold for families and, you know, long-term rentals? Because there's a huge problem in our town for
Well, there's
that.
no question. that's a
Yeah,
problem.
so, I don't know if, you know, it's worth just not looking at it anymore. And certainly as part of long-term planning, we would want to kind of understand what's important to everybody here. That's not a bad point either. And, you know, sidewalks, hey, I'm all for that too.
Does the
But
town,
we can't, you know, pick two.
does the town have any people that have these STRs registered? And that you know that they are there?
We don't have a process. That was part of what we were looking at with the ordinance that we were looking at was doing a registration process for them, but we have not. Since they've stopped working on the ordinance, we have not done that. One more question from each.
Okay, I was going to say that we are going to be working on a comprehensive plan, right?
Mhm.
And that's a great place.
It's a good place to start looking at
To
it.
start looking at it and getting information from the people who live here and what they
Yep.
want and the vision for their town. I think
We are
that's a
looking,
great
we are
idea.
getting ready to start up with a new comprehensive plan update, so that is a very good point. That's a good place to look at.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't like to make waves.
Okay, moving on. Anything else for old or new business? I'm sorry, who else? Judith, did you have something else you wanted to say?
I was gonna say that all of the short-term rentals are listed, they have to be registered with the county. And the boards are given a list, or
We
you
get a
can
list,
request
yes,
a list,
we
you
have
get
a
a
list.
list, so they know every
Yes.
property that rents. And let's not forget that historically, for what, 40 years, 50 years, Roxbury has had 70% second home ownership. And so now people, instead of the house is sitting empty the entire time, they are rented, which brings more people into the community, which supports the other businesses, which builds up other infrastructure, and that also improves the tax base. And they are charged a fee from the county, and some of it makes its way back to the community
That's true.
by the way of grants. So it's not like it's just
No,
a
of
free
course.
for all.
No,
No, no,
And there
you
should
just
be
want-
some, and there should be some limits, and people should not buy homes just to run them as businesses, and that can all be addressed at a later date, but this kind of
Yep.
ordinance, there was 2 years in the discussion.
Okay, we are moving on. Does anybody have anything for old or new business that we didn't cover? Not, we'll move into resolutions. No, I didn't more. Did you?
No, I didn't hear nothing yet.
I have not heard anything about it since that. Yeah, the problem.
Till
with that,
next year.
As we all, we talked about before, I did check into that. Myself, and you did too as well. That's part of that big unit, and if you do anything, they're gonna wanna do it for the whole unit. They don't wanna do just that small section.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is fair either.
Because they have to go through the
It's probably, it's all
They have to go.
trying to get more land up.
They have to go through the DEC to get that approval. And
Well, one thing with that kind of do is construction.
Yeah.
You know, he's going down to the house for where
And they're
they're.
shooting opposite direction. Right. It's the noise, I'm sure that's what bothers them. Duck said,
2
duck
weeks a
season is
year.
essentially 2 weekends a year, maybe 3. It's- I don't know. We looked into it and that's what I found out too, so.
So what about this from the other person, Albert? He needs to come in and get it on with? Is that what? Yeah. Oh. So we haven't given him yet? I don't know, understand the issue.
This has been addressed even 2 years, the last 2
Okay.
years. He needs, for me to issue him a dog license, he needs to have an updated rabies vaccination. Or he needs to get a letter from the vet saying that the dog, because of health issues or whatever, can't do a vaccination. He refuses to do either.
I don't see where we can make any
No,
changes.
no,
to the
okay,
exception.
that makes sense.
This guy's been approached several times and we've been back and forth.
Okay.
I think that's very important.
Very important in this part, of the town. It's absolutely important.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, moving on, shall we go to resolutions and get through this? All right, first resolution is town clerk monthly report, supervisor's monthly report, assessor's report, water district report, justice court report, parks department report, building inspector's report, August and October to October, and the dog control monthly report. No receipt, okay. Make a resolution,
I make resolution.
That's like,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next one, we have capital projects, pre-approval of bills, you received the list. Need a resolution for that,
We'll make that.
second,
also,
all in favor?
Aye.
We have on here for the highway contract, is our personnel committee ready to approve the contract for the highway? No? Okay. To be tabled until further discussion with it. Okay. We have a resolution to propose the local law number 1 of 2022 to override the tax levy limit, as we discussed previously.
We'll make that.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And we have a resolution to adopt the 2023 town budget as presented. Need a resolution for that,
We need
Matthew?
to make changes.
There may be some changes that we can adjust afterwards.
No, we need to make them before we adopt.
Okay, do you want to hold off on that then? And have-
Yeah.
Tonight,
What's that?
we need to adopt the budget tonight, we need to make the changes.
Okay, you want to, you have them or do you want to go over them or?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to do the ones that I gave you, you could do whatever you want, but my suggestions were, lower the, so we needed to lower the, unexpended balance in the highway. When we got the AED back, it was lower than
There were some
expected,
changes
so
needed,
we
yeah.
needed, so we lowered that by 50,000, so we need to make that up somewhere else. So my suggestion was, lower the general repair by 25,000. And snow removal by 9.
Snow removal in the general.
No, highway.
Oh, this has to be in highway.
It doesn't have to be, but the general fund is pretty slim as it is.
I will say Diane, Beth especially, and Diane have worked on this and been back and forth on things for quite a lot. Around and around.
It's never ending circle.
I think we've kind of gotten to the end of where we're at.
Yeah.
The final number is just over the tax cap, it's what, 3.9
3.9, yeah.
would be what we'd have to do, so we would have to.
So Beth, the highway fund general repairs 5110.4, you're going down to 150.
175. And snow removal to 140. Unexpended balance to 150. And then again, as we talked about the Roxbury water and Grand Gorge water, we need to add 12,750 for that loan. Yeah,
Roxbury has no debts.
right, so we need to add it in. And that's because we had 2 years from the time we started using the loan portion of the grant to start paying it back. So
So
that's
we're
why it
required to
comes,
make that payment this year.
that's why it comes this in
Even though-
23.
Even though the project isn't totally done, we still have to start.
By law, we have to start within 2 years, so 23 will be 2 years. So again, in Grand Gorge, it went to 47,848 for debt service. And then in Denver Water, I increased the unexpended balance to 20,000. So that's $2,500 more. Okay. You guys can do anything different. That was just. Oh, I could come up with.
Anybody have any other?
After
suggestions or
exhausting every
changes?
option.
I think we've got to about the
You're
end
the
of the one.
expert.
So again, it would move it to 3.91. So we are going over the tax cap slightly.
With the factors in play, I don't think there's any options we can do other than that. We're not leaving the town in this situation.
Yeah,
But
we've
yeah,
had too many big changes all at once. And
we have a lot of things, factors hit us at once, along with the economy and the inflation that's happening. It's just.
And next year it's gonna be the same goal, so it's not gonna get better.
So the 100,000 we're doing next year.
No, that's gonna come into this year. That's gonna be a return of money out of.
Yeah, we'll have to amend it when we know. We just don't know yet how much the repayment. We probably don't have to repay it in 23, probably start in 24,
The bond, you mean,
the bond.
yeah, for the.
Right, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but if we take it this year, it starts getting paid back next year, doesn't it?
Yeah, but we don't have any clue what the payment's gonna be. So we'll have to amend it when we know.
Because I thought it was gonna be a 5-year bond.
That's what we proposed, or what we approved. Bond resolution was a 5-year bond.
So we'll do a budget amendment when we know for sure, because we don't have exact number yet.
We don't know what the interest rate is gonna be yet, so. Anything else with the budget for anybody to change? Everybody good with where we're at? That's suggested changes.
Unless somebody has something different. You're welcome to change it.
We need a resolution to pass the budget.
Make that.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Thanks for all your work.
Yes.
A lot of numbers crunching.
A lot
It's
of
been a
them.
struggle this year. I
It's
can
been a
attest-
definite struggle.
can attest to that. Okay. Guess we're down to resolution for unpaid water amounts to taxes. Set the public hearings for the through the local laws we need for next meeting.
I gave you Denver. I'm gonna be very honest, and I don't know what you want to do. Rainbows and Roxbury, I also gave you a list. I did not total it or anything. It really isn't even complete. For Rainbows and Roxbury, I had only that to work with. So I don't know what you want to do with the unpaid water for Roxbury and Rainbows. Because as you know, those all have to be adjusted,
There
which
was some
can also
adjustments.
be done, but this is what I have for now.
So would you rather we
So I don't
hold
know
on
if it's
that?
correct or not, because I don't know if I'm missing any or not.
Should we hold on that until we get through that and then do it next?
I don't know, because any unpaid water is supposed to go on the taxes.
What if, I see somebody like sold their house and now can we go back and request the money now that they don't even have a house in it?
No, it
That
stays-
doesn't have anything to do with anything.
Stays
The
with
water
ours.
bill
Stays with
follows the
ours.
property.
Okay, so,
Doesn't matter who
so the new
owner is.
people are gonna get charged.
Yeah, because that should have been taken care of at the closing.
Okay.
But I don't know if these are accurate figures because I don't have the program.
When you said the program,
I'm not the water clerk. I shouldn't have even done that.
okay.
That's just a list that I had gotten for the total balance and then taken any deposit or
Actually have a meeting
payment.
next week.
So maybe we can hold off till then.
I think we probably should hold off on this.
It's just gotta be submitted to the county with the budget.
Exactly.
If it's not submitted to the county with the budget, it's not happening.
Mhm.
And that's for the 20th.
Yeah, that's the last day we can submit it to the county.
So we either go with what we have here on this list
Or not have them at all.
or not have them at all, and then can we correct it next year if we have to?
No choice then.
That makes sense. I
Well, you
guess.
have to adjust the accounts anyway
Right.
because of the 2 months that got messed up.
So why don't we go with what we've got for this year and then we can adjust it afterwards if we have to, right? That makes
That's
sense.
what you want to do. I don't have a total on there because I wasn't going to put any more time into it today because I didn't have time.
Water, yeah, no.
I think the ones that we know we have, we should at least put them on there for this year.
Yeah.
And we need to readjust to do it. We can do it correctly. You guys agree with it? Yes.
Otherwise, it's another year waiting for their bill to be paid.
If it has to be corrected, the year is different. Correct. So make sure that we're working on this.
All right, I'll make the resolution. What we got, we'll go with.
Second?
Yep, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Right.
Okay. Going forward. We talked a little bit about the highway fund. We are going to need to transfer some funds from the highway equipment reserve fund and from the general fund to pay for the purchase of the truck. A portion of that will come back as soon as we get our CHIPS money in on December 15th.
The 225 will be reimbursed as soon as the
Right.
chips comes in.
And the other
We're
part,
expecting it December 15th.
the other part comes out of the highway reserve fund as planned originally. So
And then down the road, we can refund, put more money in there.
reestablish that.
Yeah.
We need a resolution for that.
I'll make that resolution.
Second. Favor? Next one, you all received a copy of the agreements for LVD, VD, their sewer and water agreements. There were some changes this year, but need your resolution for that.
So you can ask for my question.
I
would make that.
Second,
I'll second it.
all in favor? Right. Next one, you received copies of quotes for a new copier.
How about the maintenance first?
Kinsley.
Oh, whoops, I missed that. I clicked that. Sorry about that. Yes, Kinza generator maintenance proposal. We are adding the 2 generators, the one at the town highway garage, which we have got back in wired in, and the one here at this building, to the contractor that does the generators for all of the sewer and water right now. I spoke with him a couple of weeks ago. They had to change the quote that they had originally given us because they were not apparently charging prevailing or paying prevailing wage for the work for the guys that were doing this. So, or what he told me is they were paying it, but they were not charging the customer, so they had to adjust it. So that was what the most recent resolution was for. And that's an annual service for each of the generators that we have. So we'll change the pricing a little bit on the ones we've already been doing for the sewer and water. But it's gonna also, the quotes will also be for these 2 units, which should also be on an annual maintenance. So, but I'm gonna make a resolution, please.
I'll make resolution
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Now we go to the copier. Okay.
I just have a question. On those LVDB operations, did you have a chance to talk to Kevin and did you guys agree to all that?
We did talk about it. Yeah, we talked about it. Yeah, Henry and Mike and Kevin and I discussed it. So. We had 2 quotes for copiers. The one, Diane's copier is on its last legs, about to die. And we're gonna replace it with a new one, purchase it. There is a maintenance agreement on it. My suggestion was, right now, we don't have a color copy in here at all. We don't use color copies that much. But it would be a good idea to probably have one that can do color copies. What it does is it gives you the ability to make it, the maintenance changes a little bit, because what they do with the color side, since you don't use them very much, is they charge you per copy. It's like 10 cents a copy.
Yeah.
Which I think is a good idea. There's times we need it. This one is also going to be set up so that when we get everything on the network, anybody in the building can use the same copier to make copies. So, as I said, Diane's, that she has in her office is about done.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
everybody's-
I just plan to use my printer as my copier, so we were gonna get this one to network. It won't be out here somewhere, so everybody.
Yeah, it'll be in there where it is right now. A specific place for the network.
Yeah.
My suggestion was, I said to go to a color copy capability and
Yep.
call it for its needed. If you guys are okay with that.
I agree, let's do it.
We have a resolution for that.
Like that.
Second, right?
Great.
Second. All right, next one, we had some changes required to the sexual harassment policy based again on state recommendations. Lindsay sent us copies of that. And we had a chance to review it. Because I believe we had to adopt the section 5 of the new policy. And this again was something the state required. And we have an issue with that.
Well, I think she said that you could either add the hotline numbers to the employee handbook, or if you wanted to make it more stringent, then you would have to adopt section 5. So if you want to talk to her further on that before you do anything, it's too clear.
All right, we'll table that then. I thought she had it all set. Next is a resolution for Vession videography for the DRI application that we discussed.
Did we do that? Yeah.
No, did we do the
No.
resolution?
Oh.
I don't think we did the resolution. To approve the payment of the $33.50 for the ARPA funds.
Yeah.
Did we do it or didn't we? We did, okay. Resolution for the letter of intent for Jonathan Leader, we did that as well. Okay, we had a liquor license notification, application notification for 5 Shepherd Lane for a new liquor license. We Need a resolution to approve that.
I'll make that resolution.
Close to home, huh?
Definitely.
The second, all in favor? Okay. The audit, the AUD's state annual financial report was filed with the state and is on file with the clerk's office. The resolution needed there. Highway superintendent work boots, we had a request from our highway superintendent for new work boots.
That's in the highway contract, but it's not in the employee handbook,
Yes.
so just throwing that out there. So if you want to add it to the employee handbook, then you'd have to do a resolution for that.
Otherwise, just go ahead and do it for him as a one-time thing, or he's requested that we reimburse him for boots like. we
Yeah, he
reimburse him.
requested if he could get reimbursed for it.
So you're saying it's in the highway contract?
It's in the highway contract, which does not cover the highway superintendent.
Because he's elected.
Oh.
So the question is, are you guys okay with doing this with him? Because he's not covered.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I'm good.
All right. Do a resolution for that?
So you're gonna amend the employee handbook?
I guess so. We did receive a sewer rate explanation from LVDV operations, just basically explained what we talked about earlier. about this. This Toys for Tots collection, Diane, you and I talked about this a little bit earlier today. I did not get a chance to talk to Bonnie. Apparently, we had in the past, we're doing Toys for Tots through the county chamber. Bonnie Walker has been doing it on a local basis. And Diane, you feel that we should not be using the name Toys for Tots? Is that your concern with this? You
Well,
brought this up to me a while ago and I want to make sure.
I mean,
that's-
it's whatever you think. I mean, if we're not gonna be part of the county's campaign for Toys for Tots. I mean, I don't know what you think about using their box, but
I thought I remembered that last year when we did have their box here, although all the stuff in the box ended up going to the local.
yeah, because I learned about it late.
Okay. But they didn't have a problem with us doing that, though, did they? As long as it was going out for distribution? Or did they?
Ray Pucci did not. That's what I say. It's up to you. I mean, it's not going towards the Toys for Tots campaign for Delaware County. Because with that, it gets distributed to all of Delaware County, not just here.
For your thoughts.
So we just need a new box without saying. Toys for Tots?
That's what Bonnie used to have,
Yeah.
Do that.
Okay.
and that's what her and I discussed.
Okay.
So we're gonna do a local drive, not Toys for Tots.
Right.
Please bring back.
Good neighbor policy, Deanna, you said you're still working on that, correct?
Yeah.
You haven't come up with anything yet. You all received water project costs. We do need to find a fire inspection company for commercial fire property inspections. We talked about that last month. I have not heard anything. And this creamery water usage. Chris isn't here, so we can't really talk about this. I think we need to have them install a water meter.
Yes.
Wasn't that discussed a while back?
It was, yes, it was discussed a couple months ago when they actually had the problem, but I would like to get permission to go ahead and just tell them that they need to have a
Yes,
water.
I agree.
I agree.
We had an agreement in place with them, but apparently nobody can find the fully signed copy. We have a copy that we signed, but not that the creamery signed. So it may be that we need to.
Maybe they never sent it to you.
But I'll get with Lindsay on that. Figure out what we need to do there. Last thing, mandatory training, harassment, discrimination, and violence prevention. We still have a very big list of people that have not done this. I hope none of them are board members.
I'm
Alan,
sure
would you
that's
like me to do
probably
another
gonna be
one?
the last one for this year that NYMER offers.
There's
so
one coming up for NYMER online that's in.
November 30th. I just sent it out
I
today.
thought I saw one about something in December too. Okay, that was November 30th.
Well, they're sexual harassment and discrimination.
That's something you can do, Bill?
I did it before.
You did it with the
Here,
other
we
ones.
did it here.
Maybe we can, if we can't get these guys to do the other one. I know the guys from the transfer station, the last one was on a Wednesday and they had to get it there. So
But they've had numerous times to go online and take.
yeah, let's talk about that offline. But maybe we can work that out.
What about just, the rave system? We did away with the rave system, right? That's one. So are we looking into a new one?
We have one.
Everbridge?
We're working with
The
them.
Everbridge?
Yeah.
How's that
Diane
going?
and Stephanie have been working with them.
Better? Not good?
It's working out. The next step after we get our website ready to go, is we are going to be able to put a link on the website for general notifications. The first step is trying to get the water and sewer, the water districts up on it. So
Yeah.
that they can get notifications there.
Uh-huh.
And then we're going to open it up.
And speaking of which, it would be great, I've been meaning to email you guys, it would be great to have your phone numbers so that Diane and I can practice on you, sending you test alerts. So if If I send you an email, you can return it to your cell number.
You should have.
Absolutely. Well, I have yours, but I don't have everybody else's. So again, just so we could practice sending you test alerts.
Sure.
It would be nice to, the only person that we're practicing on right now is me.
Okay, and I guess we're ready to pay the bills. Anything else? Anything else to be discussed?
Bills. Bills.
I didn't give them to you. I didn't. I forgot to run off the, contract because they're working on water.
We can go ahead and approve them. You guys have been through them, right? Yep.
Yeah.
And you're okay with everything? Okay, so I think
Yeah,
we have a resolution to approve them. And, provide us the list later on.
Yeah.
Better glasses or
You
something.
guys gonna make a motion?
No,
Okay, that's.
Go ahead, you haven't made.
I'll make a motion. Who's seconded?
I'll second.
All in favor? We're done.
Go home. Make that motion.
Motion to go home.
I'll make that.
Second. All in favor?